So hello everyone and welcome to our Great Conversation episode 2. So the topic of today's conversation is about a growth-oriented way of valuing international student English proficiency in academic studies, a partnership between English Language Institute and the Music Department at Missouri State University. So this topic aligns with the training research agenda in international higher education, debating on the ways of viewing international students' language proficiency as a progressively growing process and a supporting tool for their academic studies versus viewing international students' proficiency with a clear-cut standard score as a representation of their ability and competence in their academic studies. Some research indicated that English proficiency is a key factor for international students' academic success, while some other research showed that international students' confidence of using English in their academic studies is a more important factor than their actual English proficiency.
So with this topic, our great conversation today will have two experts in the field of English for academic purposes and English for specific purposes to learn about a new way to help international students succeed in both English skills and academic studies. These two experts are Ms. Paula Moore and Dr. Amy Muchnick. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So first of all, would you mind giving us a brief introduction of yourself? Shall we start from Paula?
Sure. Hi. Welcome everybody to our conversation. Paula Moore, and I'm the Director of Special Programs at the English Language Institute here at Missouri State University. I actually was a student at Missouri State years ago and was guided into the field of English as a second language when I was a writing tutor at the Writing Center. And so I've always loved Missouri State because, many mentors guided me into my career path, and I love what I do. And I also like thinking outside the box. And so I'm really excited about our content and topic today because it really is a way of thinking about English proficiency and academic studies in a way that's really different from the traditional path.
Hi, my name's Dr. Oh, sorry. I'm just jumping in.
Feel free to jump in. This conversation.
All right. Jumping in. Okay, I'm Dr. Amy Muchnick. I have been a music professor in the Department of Music at Missouri State University for 30 years. And I have had a wonderful career as a violist, a conductor. And one of the things that happened 7 years ago was that I, love working with international students. They would come over and they would be great on their instrument, but they wouldn't do well in research and reading and writing and speaking. And they would have to go back with nothing. So I brought it to my colleague, Paula, who had also been my friend for a long time. And I explained it to her, and we're going to tell you what we came up with today. And it's really exciting, and it's been really effective.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muchnick and Paula, for sharing a little bit of background about yourself. And it's great to hear your passion about international students and international higher education, how to be more creative and to think about the way we've been doing in this field. So with your extensive experience of teaching international student English and also the music and other academic courses, so how do you perceive the role of English proficiency in international student academic success? So this is my first question.
I'll take it first. First of all, I want to say that, international students are such a benefit to us on our campus because students that go through all of the hoops to come here are usually the top students in their hometown, in the city where they live. They're very talented. very intelligent, and extremely hardworking. And that's why Dr. Muchnick and I enjoy so much working with them. So if you have any, concerns about having international students in your program, you should recognize that the ones that we recruit to MSU are top notch, and they may have an English proficiency level that still is in a growth pattern when they arrive here, but because of their strive, their stick-to-itiveness and their grit, just about every international student that comes here develops a high level of fluency, proficiency, and they do very well in their courses. Their GPA tends to be higher than the domestic GPA students because of their hard work and their dedication to completing their degree. So having said that, English proficiency is on a spectrum, and it's a complex spectrum based on different skills. And some students come with very strong reading and writing skills, but maybe lack skills to speak and listen. Some students actually do have very good skills with speaking and listening, but they lack confidence, and therefore they're less apt to speak out. And I've had people in the past tell me a student couldn't speak English when, in fact, when I spoke with them, they were quite fluent. And it just had to do with the context that the student was in. And so there's a lot of variables as to why a student might be silent in your class. And a lot of that has more to do with culture than it does English proficiency. So I think I'll stop there for the moment, but just to keep you focused on the fact that when we learn languages, it's a process, and it's a never-ending process. I'm still learning new vocabulary in English. You are too, every day. And learning a language is not something where you reach the end and say, okay, I've done it, and I've reached what I need to have. No, it's just a constantly growing skill that we learn.
I totally agree with Paula on that learning process, because I've been like talking with Helen about my own experiences. Like sometimes the last time she walked into my office and looked at it, there's a vocabulary book on my desk, telling her I'm still learning. So I think Helen and I, from like as the English as our second language, from our background, we still feel the same way. And even we've been here for many years, and we still working on it, and it's constantly just think this is a learning process.
Absolutely. And kudos to both of you for taking a job where you're absolutely working 100% in your second language. That's just amazing. Thank you for being with us. Amy, what do you think about it?
Well, since I'm a music person, music and language go kind of hand in hand for me. And what I'm doing now is teaching a very focused program that basically focuses on the subject. And it's called English for Musicians. And what we do is, instead of giving them, instead of having them pass the TOEFL, which has nothing to do with music whatsoever, you can have a student pass the TOEFL and come and fail. So our idea was a master's degree preparatory course before you do your entire master of music degree, or undergraduate for that matter. Most of our students are graduate students. And so what we have are 4 components: speaking and listening, reading and writing and grammar, music history, and music theory. And so what this does is prepare them to do research, to cite, to use the style of citing that's really important, and to come up with a research paper. And again, all of it has to do with music vocabulary. I teach the music history portion, which prepares them for the upper level. So what this is doing is preparing the students for the upper level. So once they pass English for Musicians, it waives the TOEFL, okay? And then they are fully admitted to the Master of Music degree. Most of the students are performance majors, meaning they're having, violin performance, a lot of pianists, a lot of piano performance majors, because we are an all Steinway school. So we're getting a lot of piano people running our direction. Most of our students 49% of our students are from China, 26% from South Korea. We have graduated at this point in 7 years, 97.4% of our students. And we've had almost 70 students who are either still in the program or have gone through the program. So we have a great retention rate. And to me, that's the most important thing. We know they're getting through. And we know that E4M is effective for them getting through, and we're retaining them. And beyond that, about 40% of them are now in doctoral programs in the United States.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being part of this journey, and it's what is so fascinating to me about it is that students can do in one semester what would take them normally a year in the intensive English program. But I think a big part of that is the level of motivation they have, because the content is, exactly what they're going to be studying in their degree program. And so, when we teach vocabulary, we're focusing on vocabulary specific to music. Of course, they learn other academic vocabulary as well. But the meaning of the word measure and bar are very different when we talk about it in a music context than when we talk about it in another, normal context. And so students need to understand the meanings of those things in order to communicate with their professors when they're taking private lessons and when they're writing papers about music. So that's really important. And we started with this program primarily because the intensive English program, or the English for Academic Purposes program, is very intense. And music students can't stop practicing and learning their musical instrument. It's muscle memory, and you will lose your skill if you don't continue to practice. But the rigorous schedule of the intensive English program that we already had was almost too much for music majors to find time to practice and continue to take music lessons and hone their craft. And so we created a semester-long program that condenses a lot of the intensive English program's skills. We cover the same skills, but we give them more outside of class work to do, and we also immerse them in the music department. So they're interacting with students and professors every day using English in real, authentic contexts. So we think that this is a way to accelerate a student's proficiency growth, and most of them finish in one semester. And like Amy said, they finish their degree and go on to enroll in a doctoral program somewhere. So they've been very successful. And like you said, Pong, this is not focused on deficit thinking. This is actually thinking, growth oriented. And the students are going to continue to learn, but what we want to do is give them the skills that they specifically need in order to be successful in a music program. Because a music program is going to ask for different skills than a communication program is, than a science program is. And so there are certain degree programs on campus that would fit really well with this kind of model. And, when you think about the number of students Amy just mentioned, how many students have gone through the program and graduated from Missouri State? None of those students would have come here and finished their degree if it hadn't been for this program. We're specifically recruiting for that. And when we tell students, we have this program for you, you don't have to take the TOEFL. You don't have to take the IELTS, and you can keep continuing your music study. You don't have to break that to study English. That's what has attracted those 70 or more students who've come through the program. And that's what's built the master's program in the music department so well over the years. And so, you know, if another department is seeing, you know, numbers of students going down, or would like to think about ways to, you know, creative ways to recruit international students to your program, we would welcome you to reach out to us and find out how we could help you with that.
Yeah, well, Paula, we can leave that till later question. That probably I think I'm glad you mentioned that. Kind of do the comparison between the English for Musician program with and also the traditional way asking for the English proficiency requirement, and specifically use the term deficit thinking versus growth oriented approach. I think just kind of just make some comments, just help our audience, you know, better understand the two terms, because sometimes the deficit thinking, we kind of use the approach, the literature, basically use this term to describe, like we often use the standard test like TOEFL IELTS as a clear-cut requirement for the college admission or graduate program admission. So that gave a assumption or impression that represents students' ability to be able to success in to measure student ability to success, whether they will success or not in their academic studies. So I think that's kind of a contrast to what you guys do in the English for musician program, and recognize the student dedication, hard working, once they admitted to the program, and recognize these efforts and recognize the learning process, learning English as a process actually gave the students great opportunity to grow, to develop this confidence. And so that's why we use the term growth-oriented approach.
Absolutely.
So that's, I think just make some comments, kind of better explain these two different approach. So thanks a lot for sharing that, Amy.
Yeah, and also, I think it's very important to remember that we also assess that. And that this growth-oriented way of learning is working. And it's working because we see them go on. We're gonna have, I think, our 4th doctorate in the spring, in May, our 4th English for Musician kid getting a doctorate. And yeah, I know, it's amazing. And so with this program, we can assess that, yes, indeed, growth does work. And it's not easy at all. It's very, very intense. And I've just been through my English training. Now I can teach English as a second language. And now that I've gone through that process, I'm going to go back and look how we teach this course again, because I have a new lease on my growth as an English teacher over 10 weeks, because it was hard, you know. But these kids work 110%, literally. It's not just 100%. They go out of their way to ask questions for extra help, and then I see my American students are in the same class with these international students. And I ask my American students, you know, my American student, you got an 80 on your final in theory. And then my international student got 100, you know, there's another bit of assessment, you know, but again, the hard work is there, but we can assess the growth. And the other thing is, and this is probably very obvious, but our graduate program has grown over 35% in the last 5 years. And that's because of this program. And of course, that means numbers, that means income, and that means growth for your department. And I would recommend anybody to do this, because you'll see the kind of business it's gonna generate. And beyond that, your students get more. My American students have developed such great rapport in communication with these international students, because they're often in chamber music together. They play in string quartets, they sing in the choir, they have to work as a team. And again, yes, music is an international language for sure, but still there's that communication of that language that's very important. And that's exactly what we see, is that they're working as a team together. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it really enriches the entire experience in any program when you have students from the United States and students from other countries mixed together and working on projects together. Because then you have, this extra dimension outside of the syllabus and outside of the learning outcomes that you have for your course. You have so much additional learning going on because of the interaction. And when you have these really phenomenally talented students here, they raise the bar for everyone. They show what's possible, and they become leaders and role models for other students. And in the long run, we've had incredibly talented musicians in the music department. When domestic students see what they're able to do, that encourages them to work harder, to practice more, to get better. And so it's all around a really good, it's just multiple wins all the way around is what I would say.